What's going on, guys? I'm Bill and welcome to Bill's How To. Today I'm going to show you guys how to patch properly and what happens if you don't do it properly. This one here is a section on a wall that somebody has previously tried to patch, and today I'm going to show you guys why it's actually failed. So if we have a look around the edges here, it's already starting to crack all the way around and it's exposing where the hole was previously. If I tap it, you can see how much movement and play there is in that wall, and today I'm going to show you guys why this one here failed, how to fix it and prevent it from happening in the future. Let's get straight into it, guys. Let's do this. Alright guys, so this here is a house that we're painting, and when we have a look at this wall here, it's a classic example of how not to patch. When we have a look at this one here quickly, you can see around the edges where it's starting to crack. It indicates a few things. Number one, there was no reinforcing mesh used or any paper tape used, which was going to help strengthen this section here up. Number two, if we tap on it, you can see just how much play there is. That says to me that there isn't actually anything behind the wall here holding this into place. So let's open this one here up and see exactly what's going on. 1, 2, 3. And it doesn't look like there's any backing in there whatsoever. Have a look on the side. It's pretty much the old hole all over again. So let's push this one here right through. We'll pull it out and see what's happened. Might have to make the hole a little bit bigger. Looks like there's a stud on this side. I'll use my other hand. So this here is basically what they've done. Absolutely nothing. They've just basically patched right back over that section and it's gone straight back through the wall. So today I'm going to show you guys how to fix this up and how to prevent this from happening in the future, because that's probably the most important thing to prevent this from happening. You always need some sort of backing on behind the wall in order to strengthen it, especially when you tap around on the wall. People lean up against the wall. Last thing you want is for this to go right back through and you're back to square one. So let's peel this one here back. We know exactly what we're going to be working with. You can see the stud right there on the side. Alright guys, so now that we've opened this up, we can see exactly what we're working with. Like I said, there was no backing on here previously, no tape whatsoever, and that's the reason why it's failed. So what we're going to do is we're going to measure up for our new piece, keeping in mind that we've got a stud right up here on the side. So we're going to measure right up to the stud. We're going to make sure that we don't measure past the stud. I'm going to measure this opening here. So if we take our tape measure it from the edge of our damage, make sure that's all nice and solid. From the edge of our damage right up to our stud. So we've got here 150, and then we'll measure also the height. We've got 200. So we'll cut a new piece at 150 by 200. Alright guys, so I've got a scrap piece of sheeting ready to go. We've got my measurements marked up. I'm using a utility knife and we're just going to trace the markings for our measurements. So all you want to do is just simply score the paper in order to be able to snap it. So if we just run that blade straight across, that should simply snap. We'll put the pressure on the back and that snaps open like this. Then what we do is we flip that around, take our utility knife, and then you want to just cut the paper from the back, snap that off. Do the same thing for our other side. Snap it off. And now we've got our new piece ready to go. So the only thing that you have to be careful of here is make sure that you cut a piece that's bigger than the existing hole. So you can see here, that's enough of a size to cover that damaged area. What we're going to do now is take a pencil. We're going to keep in mind that we've got our stud along here on the side of the wall. So if we just place that on the side of our marking there, we can put that in position and then trace all the way around. Doesn't have to be level, doesn't have to be 100% straight. So when I've measured this one here, I've gone over the stud just a little bit. Doesn't really matter too much as long as we haven't gone too far where we're going to actually take all the support away from the piece that's on the side here. So I'm going to use my multi-tool. I'm going to cut this section here out. Once again, you can use a utility knife, you can use a saw, you can use a whole range of different tools to cut this little section here out. I'm just going to use a multi-tool, a lot easier, more convenient and quicker. So now that we've got that cut, we can just remove all these little excess pieces out. Legs are pretty nice cut. Take off any little flaking areas. If there's a little bit more that needs to be cleaned up, we can use the multi-tool once again, or we can get the utility knife and just simply clean that section there out. Want to try to keep it as flush as possible. Now that that's all cleaned out, what we're going to do next is get our backing board. So what we're going to be using is just some scrap piece of timber, anything that you've got laying around, whether it's framing timber or skirting boards, anything that's just nice and flat, and it has to be long enough to make it all the way across. So I'm going to get 2 pieces of timber, run it from the top to the bottom, let it overhang maybe 100 mil, 200 mil, put 2 side by side, and then we'll screw these into position. This is going to allow our piece of drywall, plasterboard, gyprock sheet, whatever else, sheetrock, whatever else you guys want to call it. So that's going to allow us to have a bit of backing support in case somebody does lean up against the wall, somebody does throw a ball at it or whatever it is, you've got that support there. If you do happen to want to hang a photo later on, you're not going to actually damage the wall and have it going all the way through once again. So that backing support's really important. Not only support it, but also level everything out. And what I mean by that is once we run the timber from the back all the way across, that's going to give something for our drywall sheet. I'm going to have to find a better name to use. Find something for our sheeting to sit nice and flush. So that's going to help us get our sheeting nice and flush up against the wall. Alright guys, so we've got 2 pieces of scrap timber. This one here is just some old moulding or some skirting boards that I found in the back of the car. These ones here are perfect length. So we're going to have 2 of them sitting side by side. What we're going to do is put a screw through the wall. I'll show you guys in a second. So I'll get my screw ready, drop that all the way down into the wall, pop it back up, try level it out, hold the back of the timber so that we don't actually push it through. And we want to countersink that screw. So once again, we'll do the same thing on the bottom. And now that gives us a nice support for our drywall to sit on. Drywall, it must be drywall. I'll put another screw just in case that one there wants to push through. Same thing on the bottom. I like to always put 2 screws on either end, just in case somebody puts a bit too much pressure. That way you've got 2 screws taking on that support. Making sure they're below the surface. Do the same thing with our other piece of timber. So once we've got our backing support in place, we can take our new piece, push that into place. That should sit now nice and flush, and we can put in a couple more screws to hold this one here in place. And now we've got a nice solid foundation. Even if somebody threw a ball at that or wanted to put a hole through it, it's going to be very difficult. Nice and solid, ready to be patched. So for the joint compound, I'm going to be starting off with my first coat using a rapid set, just so I can get that thicker material to set a lot quicker than usual. I'm going to use a rapid set for first coat, second and third coat, then I'll use a thinner product. So first thing we want to do is just grab a little scraper or a joint knife, clean off any of these edges, make sure there's nothing protruding like we've got here. Get it as clean as possible. Take off any flaking areas. Now what we're going to do next is we're going to get ready to use our tape. So I'm going to cut my tape to size. What I'm using here is a fiberglass mesh. Now I know a lot of people prefer to use paper tape when it comes to patching holes or small areas. I always tend to use the fiberglass mesh. A lot easier to work with, no chance of bubbles. It's got an adhesive on one side, so it does help, especially with what I like to do. So what we're going to do is we're going to fill in this section here with the joint compound, then we put the tape on top. But first I'm going to get my tape ready to go, so I'll cut the sizing, ready to go, and because it's got an adhesive on it, I can just stick that on the wall and grab it when I need to later on. So once again, put on the side, making sure not to overlap anything. So we'll cut these sections here a little bit shorter. Once again. And we'll just pop this one here on the wall as well. So I'll go mix up my joint compound, come back, fill in these joint areas here, and then we'll put the tape on top and then give it our first skim. So now we've got our 10-minute quick set ready to go. Like I said, I'm going to fill in these joints here first. Just pushing that material all the way through, all around the edges, including the nail holes. Just want to make sure I pack that in as tight as possible. I find if you go on a 45-degree angle, it seems to push that product in a lot better. Alright, so now that we've got that, we can put our tape on top. And now we can take our compound and just simply mesh that all the way through. So what I like to do is I start around on the edges, feather that all the way through. That way it's going to hold the tape in position, and then I can just smear that straight over the top. Now because this one here is a quick set, we're going to have 10 minutes of working life, so I want to get this on here on fairly quick. Not too concerned about the finish as yet. I could even leave this as is right now. But what I'm going to do is just feather it out just a little bit more. And once the first coat's dry, we can then give it a quick sand with 120 grit sandpaper. And now we're ready for our second coat. So what we're going to do now is our second coat using a top compound. We're going to bring this out a bit further. We're going to bring it out to about here. It's probably about 100 mil wider than what it is at the moment. We're going to get a nice clean finish on it using the top coat. We're going to try and feather everything out on the edges. So first thing we'll do is just simply apply the product on there, and then I'll use the bigger knife and we'll level everything out. To reduce the amount of sanding we're going to have to do, it's worth spending a little bit extra time patching this section here. That way we're going to have a lot less sanding to do. So the better you do a job on your finish, the less sanding we're going to have to do. So now that we've applied that product, we can take our bigger knife, which is going to make things a lot easier. And you can see there it makes such a big difference. We'll just smooth that all out. Pick up any of the excess that we've got here, the material. And once again, feather everything out. We'll just let this one here set, and then we'll come back for our third and final coat. And when the second coat's dried up, it's time for sanding once again, and then for our final coat. So we'll give it a quick light sand. So once again, we're just going to spread it out a little bit further than what it is at the moment. And then we'll wait for this one here to dry. It should dry fairly quick now because it's pretty thin layer. Once that's dry, we'll give it one final sand, and then we're ready to prime and paint. Give it a nice light sand, making sure that our edges are nice and feathered. Once that's done, we're going to put the primer on there, and then we're going to paint the walls. So I'll give it a quick sand. Shouldn't take much. You'll notice that I'm mainly working around the edges. The inside is nice and smooth. I'm still going to give it a quick sand, but on the outside, I want to make sure that we've got a perfect transition. And that way, when you look on it on the side of the wall, you won't actually see a bulge whatsoever. Just give it a quick sand in the middle. And now we're ready to get started on priming. Alright guys, so the damaged section has now been primed along with a few other areas on the wall that also needed to be patched and primed. We've got the walls cut in, ready to be rolled in. I'm going to give this 2 coats of paint, and I'll see you guys in a bit. And once that's all been patched and painted, this is the finished product. So it's very, very hard to tell that there was previously a hole here. Hopefully you guys have enjoyed the video and you now know how to patch properly. As always, like, comment and subscribe. Until next time, I'm Bill. Thanks for watching Billshowto.